We're now really in the the final throws, the final run-up. This is not going to let us get away with crossing the border without being on a motorway, but I don't think the motorway at this point actually has. I think we've got past the last toll at this point. I think that's the correct. That goes back to Poznan. This goes on to Schwetzko, and you've also got your Ripin road coming off here. So this is all, well, that's the way the route used to look, and there used to be that corner there. But they've added in, you see there's nightclubs all over the place here. So basically what's happened is you don't see prozzies on the roadside anymore. It doesn't mean there aren't any prozzies. There are, but they've brought them inside the houses, then into villas where they can work in hopefully slightly more sanitary conditions and safer for them, I suppose, although whether it makes any difference to the amount of their earnings that they get to keep, I don't know. I don't really know the industry. They don't really require auditing. Well, they probably should be audited, but they don't get audited. Therefore, there's no point in an auditor knowing the ins and outs of that business, other than just out of normal curiosity, which is the same as anybody might be curious about any business, especially a business involving something as visceral as prostitution. But from what I understand from the media, from people that have explained things to me, you know, if you're a prostitute, you don't normally get to keep much of what you earn. So if you're in one of those houses, you have to pay a certain degree of rent, and so that's your fixed cost. Plus on top of that, you have to pay for everybody that comes in. You have to pay something. So you have to do a certain minimum of work. Otherwise, you know, you owe them money, and you've got to be working back some kind of debt. And people say, well, hang on a second, this is a fictional debt. And you know, often those people they're working because somebody gave a loan to their parents or something back in the other country where they came from, often Bulgaria. But you say, hang on a second, this is a fictional debt. Often it's a debt which is just dreamed up by their pimps anyway, and is a staggeringly large fee, and they don't get any say in it. And they say, well, why are they working for something which isn't even real, a real debt, you know, but that's making them work and the abuse and everything? Well, it's almost like a microcosm of real life, isn't it, when looked at that way? What we all do, we're all working for fictional debts in a sense. So, you know, the fact that they can't see that there's actually supposed to be a system of law to protect them, but they either don't perceive it or don't believe in it. So they carry on working for this fictional debt. We have a system of law. We also don't realise to a degree that's also part of the whole illusion. But there we are. It's very difficult to break out of it without relinquishing the things which you need, or believe you need. So, or have come to need. So we're caught. We're trapped. Just like these girls. Obviously we don't get serially raped for money day after day, but we also have to do things we don't like to do, and we have to put a brave face on it. So broadly speaking, there is some kind of let's call it an allegoric analogy between the two. So here we go, these beautiful pine trees. You normally wouldn't see the red trunks of the pine unless the forest had been cut back to that point, which of course it was, to make room for the new road. And the one good thing about it is that it gets you it actually enables you to see those trunks of the pine tree. This is a monoculture, obviously just pine. which isn't, in my opinion, great forestry. That gives you a lot of... They give off, you see, pine trees or coniferous trees in general, they give off certain ethers into the atmosphere. The smell of the pine, which is very nice sort of smell that you often find in essential oils and things, they give it off, and when the trunks of just that one tree are close together like that, you can, walking through it, you can sometimes smell there's a very, very large or high level of that, that aromatherapy oil that you get from pines. You sometimes find it in various bath oils and things. You smell it there. Well, that's actually something which is flammable, and makes, once you get a forest fire going, that's the sort of thing which that creates these huge kind of like big bursts of flame that go on. Yeah. So having trees of different sorts, especially not all coniferous trees together, but occasionally, well, there's just one silver birch in the middle, but like a stand of this kind of tree and a stand of birch in between. That's much better forestry if you want to avoid fire. This is not great. Another thing is to dig ditches. People were complaining about the digging of ditches or leaving off of areas between, or digging roads through it, as being a way of disturbing the ecosystem. Well, actually, what it does is it means that you've actually got a fighting chance of holding the fire into this particular area and not having it cross over to the other. But once a fire really does get going, then it crosses even roads as broad as this one, because the heat that it generates, of course, is able to ignite the ethers on the other side of the road. Even though you've not got flares of flame crossing across and like lighting it like one candle lights another, it's possible for when you've got this kind of monocultures, for flames to actually cross the road even as big as this, just because of the heat on the one side igniting the ethers coming across from the other side. It's all about, forest fires are really all about gas, all about gases. So that's how I understand it. I mean, this again is, I'm not a forester any more than I am a hook, obviously, fine hooker I'd make, but I think a lumberjack would probably be more my style, but nevertheless, Monty Python songs coming into the head, I'm not, so you still have to learn a bit about these industries in order to audit them, and I've audited a couple of forestry projects, so I can tell you a little bit about that. So there we go. There's one of these new bridges, about 10 years old. This one, the style is about 10 years old. This particular bridge is, I think, less than that. Probably it's about 5 years, 4 maybe now. Yeah, I don't want to use up all the thing, because once I get talking, of course, it's difficult for me to stop, because I always think of something to say. But today we're going to hear people talking all different languages. We're going to hear people giving lectures. We're going to take photos of lots of people, and so hopefully there'll be things to put up on YouTube. I need to really speed up how fast I'm processing and uploading things. Even though it's a holiday, and I always thought I'll do this when I go on holiday, obviously I'm not going to be doing that now, because I'm going to be even making more films instead of getting rid of the last ones. So by the time you're watching this, there's probably something like a 2-year backlog. I don't know what to do about it, really. I just need to get busier and busier. But nevertheless, it's important for me that it all ends up there in the end, so I'll just carry on fighting. So getting that backlog down is one of my KPIs for my personal life, but obviously KPIs for the professional life always will take priority over KPIs for the personal life, because if you put your personal life KPIs first, then you probably won't have any professional KPIs to fulfill after a certain length of time, because you won't have been fulfilling them, and you can't possibly fulfill every KPI, not if they're properly set anyway. So You should make it. You should be motivated to have a really good stab at them, and get. But if you can achieve them, they were too easy. That's by definition. So there we go. There's a new petrol station in a strategic place, not far from the border. Very strategic location, that one. And we're coming to the end of the motorway. I'm going to turn it off so that there's more for the actual conference. By now, anybody watching this series with the hope of getting to the Polyglot conference itself will be completely frustrated, saying, well, we want all these A-lister polyglots. We don't want some C-lister polyglot giving us a lot of his opinions. Well, okay, you can cut to them if you want. They'll be along shortly in this series.